She woke with her wrists raw, the rope biting deep, snow crunching under her knees. A scream tore through the night, sharp, small, urgent. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Fingers stiff, she clawed at the knots, teeth scraping fibers that cut her mouth. The baby's wail drew her closer to the fence, to the tangle of wire that held something too precious. Her hands shook. She gritted her teeth and tore the wire free, heart hammering against her ribs. The newborn's lips were blue, tiny fists flexing, weak cries that sounded like pleading. She pressed the child to her chest, shivering through the cold that had nothing to do with the wind. "Don't sleep. Don't you sleep," she whispered, voice broken. "I'm here. I'm here." She remembered the hands, rough, laughing, badges glinting. She remembered the smell of alcohol and gunpowder, the men who had left her tied and thought that would be the end of it. She pressed the baby closer, rocking. "They wanted you quiet." "I won't let them," she said. The snow stuck to her coat, icy, unrelenting. She could feel the night breathing around her, shadows moving in patterns that weren't real but still hungry. A light broke over the hill. She froze, instinct sharp. Headlights. Engines low and steady. She tightened her grip, pressing the baby to her chest as if sheer force could keep the men away. A figure stepped out. Boots crunching. A deputy. Badge catching a sliver of pale light. "Ma'am." "Don't move," he said. His tone was calm, rehearsed, like a man reading lines he hoped would matter. "You already did," she spat back, teeth clenched, eyes darting between the baby and the approaching car. He paused. "That yours?" he asked, softer now. She shook her head, still clutching the infant. "You asking or claiming?" She didn't let him see how terrified she was. He hesitated, then cut the wire. The baby cried louder, a sound that seemed to carry across the empty hills. Another car rolled in, older, heavier. The sheriff. He didn't smile. Didn't blink. "We'll take it from here," he said. "No," she replied, voice raw, shaking. "You won't take her." Her feet slipped in the snow. She fell forward, hands gripping the baby, face brushing icy ground. "You're freezing," the deputy said, stepping closer. So was she whispered, barely moving, rocking the infant with tiny, urgent motions. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "You're the Scouts girl," he said. "Was," she corrected, jaw tight. A blanket was offered, authority wrapped in warmth. She refused. "You don't touch her," she said. The deputy's hesitation stretched the moment, and she knew power could be patient, but patience wasn't her own. Inside, the snow melted from her coat, cold water dripping onto wooden floors. The baby shivered. Her hands shook but didn't release. The sheriff's voice was softer now, almost a question. "Then we do this official." She didn't answer, staring at the infant's small face, eyes searching hers, silent accusations in their blue depths. She pressed a finger to the baby's lips. "Shoo," she whispered. "Shoo." She thought of the knots, the wire, the men who had thought that leaving her here would end everything. It didn't. It had begun. Each heartbeat echoed through her, through the child, through the snow, carrying something she didn't yet have a name for. Fear, yes. Anger, yes. But something else, too. Something older, something that remembered blood and hands and power that came and went with the seasons. She rocked the baby. Whispered lines she had not spoken aloud before. "I'm here. I'm here. Don't sleep." The lights in the distance dimmed, but the snow still reflected a pale glow. No one moved closer yet. She could feel the night holding its breath, listening, waiting. And she held the baby tighter, pressed against her chest, warmth fighting cold, hope fighting terror, love fighting a world that had tried to take everything. She whispered again, over and over, her voice almost a chant. "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." And for the first time since the rope cut into her skin, she thought maybe, just maybe, they hadn't won. Not tonight. Not this snow. Not this child. Not her. The headlights glinted off her coat, snow melting into dark wet patches. The deputy stood still, hands near his belt, eyes scanning her every move. She didn't relax. Not yet. The baby squirmed, tiny cries stabbing through the quiet. "That yours?" he asked again, softer now. She shook her head. "You asking or claiming?" she shot back. He flinched but said nothing. His boots pressed into the snow, crunching. He stepped closer, careful, measured. "Ma'am, the baby, she's mine," she said, voice tight, low. "She's not." "Not yet," he muttered. She braced herself, shaking. Snow clung to her hair, to her lashes, melting into wet streaks. The infant's eyes blinked open, looking at the deputy as if seeing him for the first time. "You don't touch her," she said. A second car rolled in, older, heavy, headlights wide and slow. The sheriff emerged, long coat flaring at the bottom, boots deep in the snow. "We'll take it from here," he said, calm, precise. "No," she answered immediately. "You won't." He paused, not expecting resistance, not from someone so small, so cold, so fierce. His voice was quieter, almost curious. "Scout's girl," she looked up at him, face wet with snow and tears. She corrected. "Was the Scout's girl," she spat. A knife edge of memory cut her chest. Knots, laughter, shadows. She pressed the baby closer. "Hands off," she said. The deputy reached for the blanket. She pulled back, rocking the infant faster. "She's freezing." "So was she," the girl whispered. "We can take her inside." "Heat, food, safety," the sheriff said. She shook her head. "You don't know safety." His eyes narrowed. He looked at the baby, at her, at the thin line of snow-drenched wood between them. Authority hovered, weighty, ready. "Then we do this official," he said, voice lower now, almost resigned. She backed, slipping in the snow, balancing the infant like it was her own spine. "I said no." "Ma'am, no," she interrupted, shivering, teeth chattering. She could feel the night pressing closer, the shadows leaning, waiting. Her mind flickered, hands tying knots, badges, laughter. She remembered the smell, the cold, the fear, the way the ropes had burned into her skin. "You can't protect her," the deputy said. She didn't answer. Not yet. She was already protecting. Holding. Breathing with the baby. Waiting for the men to misstep. The sheriff crouched, voice softer. "Name?" "Doesn't matter," she said. "Does to the law," he muttered. She looked at him. The baby's hand curled around her finger. She stared down at it. "Law doesn't know me." He sighed, shifting weight from one boot to the other. "Then it knows her." She gritted her teeth. "No. Not her. Not yet." The deputy reached slowly, hesitating near her shoulder. "We just want to help," he said. "Help isn't touching her," she whispered, rocking the baby like the motion could turn back time. Snow dripped from her hair into the child's blanket. The sheriff's expression hardened, unreadable. "You think defiance matters here?" "I don't think." "I know," she replied. He studied her, calculating. A moment stretched, brittle as ice. Then the sheriff signaled, stepping back slightly. "We wait," he said. "For what?" she asked. "For you to see reason. Or break." She pressed the baby harder against her chest. "Neither," she said. The deputy lowered his hands slowly. He watched her, studied her. "She needs warmth," he said, voice quieter than before. "She needs me," she answered, unflinching. Every instinct screamed that if she let go, the men would take everything. The sheriff remained silent, cape of authority taut against the wind. Snowflakes slid down his coat. He said nothing, waiting. Watching. Calculating. The baby squirmed again, eyes blinking, tiny mouth opening, closing. She murmured a lullaby she had not remembered knowing. The deputy looked away. The sheriff's jaw tightened. She rocked the infant, whispering over and over, the sound small but absolute. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The headlights dimmed slightly, wind blowing snow sideways across their faces. No one moved. No one touched. And for a moment, the cold held them all, the world paused, and the girl held her child like she held every piece of herself left unbroken. She pressed a finger against the baby's lips. Shoo. Not yet. Not to them. Not tonight. The deputy swallowed, stepping back further. The sheriff finally straightened. We'll wait then, he said. But dawn comes, and rules do too. She nodded once. Baby against her chest. Snow dripping, breaths visible, small fists flexing. She whispered again, almost a chant, almost a promise. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. No one moved closer. No one laughed. They all waited for the next breath, the next move, knowing, somehow, that the girl and the child were already something no badge could touch. She slipped backward through the snow, boots scraping ice, baby pressed tight to her chest. Her arms burned from the weight, her lungs ached, but she did not loosen her grip. I said no, she whispered, teeth chattering. The deputy stepped closer, hesitant, hands still lowered. Ma'am, don't, she said sharply. You don't get to decide. The sheriff watched, arms crossed, coat flaring with the wind. You can't keep her forever, he said, voice even. I don't intend to, she replied, eyes fixed on the infant's pale face. Not until it matters to me, not until it's safe. The baby whimpered, tiny fists brushing against her chin. Shoo, she murmured, rocking back and forth on frozen heels. Snow clung to her hair, melting into her eyes, but she didn't blink. The deputy glanced at the sheriff, and the sheriff's jaw tightened. We can wait, he said. We don't have to force it. She heard the faint threat behind the calm. You think waiting helps, she said. Not for me, he replied. For her. She shook her head, pressing the infant tighter, rocking faster. I know what's coming for her. You don't. The deputy swallowed, shifting weight from foot to foot. It's cold. She needs warmth. She's fine. With me, she said. The sheriff stepped closer, boots crunching softly. The law is clear, he said. That doesn't make it right, she answered. Law isn't warmth, she whispered, and the deputy flinched as if she had struck him. She swayed slightly, letting the baby nestle against her chest. Tiny whimpers became soft breaths. Name, the sheriff said suddenly, voice sharp. She glanced up, snow clinging to her eyelashes. Doesn't matter, she muttered. It matters to me, he said. Not to me, she snapped. The deputy's eyes flicked between them, uncertain. She has a right to a name, he said softly. She has a right to survive first, she replied, voice trembling with exhaustion and resolve. The sheriff paused, studying her. The baby's small fists flexed against her chin. Snow melted into wet streaks down her coat. Let me, the deputy said finally, stepping forward. She pulled back instinctively. Don't touch her. He froze. We just want to help, he said. Help isn't touching her, she said. Silence fell, heavier than the snow around them. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. You think defiance matters here? He asked. I don't think. I know, she answered. She rocked the infant slowly, deliberately, feeling the small body's warmth against her own. He watched. Waiting. Calculating. The wind picked up, snow swirled, settling over their boots, their coats, their breath. She murmured again, a soft rhythm, half lullaby, half prayer. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The deputy stepped back, finally, hands unclenched. The sheriff straightened, adjusting coat. Rules will come, he said. Dawn changes everything. She didn't reply, rocking the baby faster, pressing the small body close. Her teeth were clenched, her face streaked with snow and tears. Not yet, she whispered. Not to them. Not tonight. The baby's small eyes blinked, pupils wide, looking at her as if reading her thoughts. She held the tiny fists gently, rocking, whispering, breathing in sync with the child. Snow fell, silent except for their labored breaths. No one moved closer. No one laughed. The night held them all in a fragile balance of patience and fear. She murmured again, her voice soft but unwavering. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff finally looked away, boots scraping snow as he stepped back toward his car. The deputy lingered for a moment, eyes on the girl and child, then followed. The wind whipped across the field, carrying the faint scent of smoke from distant houses. She pressed the baby tighter, rocking, whispering the rhythm over and over. She could feel the small body relaxing, warmth returning. She whispered once more, almost to herself. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The snow fell heavier now, covering footprints, covering tracks, but she did not move. She would not let go. Not tonight. Not ever. The station smelled like old wood and bleach, something sharp under the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. She stepped inside, snow melting from her coat onto the floorboards, baby pressed tight to her chest. The deputy followed, hesitant, boots tapping. Sit, he said. She shook her head, rocking the child slowly. Not yet, she whispered. The sheriff lingered near the door, coat flaring, arms crossed. Names. Dates. Paperwork, he said, voice even. I don't care for names, she replied. You will, he said. You don't get to decide, she spat, eyes sharp. The baby stirred, tiny fists curling. A nurse came forward, clipboard in hand. Warmth, feeding, checking vitals, she said. I don't need your warmth, the girl said, voice low, almost brittle. You're shaking, the deputy noted. Shaking is not giving up, she replied, eyes fixed on the baby. The sheriff sighed, sliding papers across the desk toward her. You were found trespassing. Name, age, relation to child, he said. She looked at the infant, hair wet against her forehead. She hasn't told me yet, she muttered. The deputy flinched. The sheriff didn't react. He tapped the papers once, sharp, deliberate. A faint hum of conversation came from the hallway. Footsteps, soft, deliberate. The nurse approached, hands steady. I can help, she whispered. I said no, the girl said, rocking the baby, leaning back against the wall. No one touches her. The sheriff's eyes narrowed, voice calm but sharp. Official procedure. You know it. Law is not life, she whispered, pressing the infant tighter. Snow dripped from her coat onto the floor. We weigh her, we tag her, we feed her, the nurse said gently. She eats here, she said. And only here. The sheriff slid the paperwork closer. We can record her name now. Or later. Legal matters, he said. Names don't matter to me, she said. They will to the state, he replied. The deputy glanced away. She stared at the forms, lines, columns, spaces to fill, signatures that carried the weight of orders she refused to follow. She survives first, she said quietly. Paperwork second, she whispered. Snow clung to her hair. She pressed a finger against the baby's lips. Shoo. No words yet. Not for them. The sheriff's hand rested on the desk. We need information. Your name. Her name. Time. Place, he said. You won't get it, she said. Why fight, he asked. Because someone will, she said. Because it matters to her, she whispered, eyes flicking to the baby. Tiny fists flexed. Eyes blinked. Breath caught. She murmured again, a rhythm only they could hear. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The deputy stepped forward slowly, cautious. We only want to help, he said. Help isn't touching her, she said. Silence fell, thick and cold. The sheriff sighed. We wait, he said. We give her time. She shook her head. Time is already past. Everything that should have waited is over. The baby's cry softened as she rocked, body against her chest, heartbeat synchronizing. Snow continued to drip from her hair, pooling at her boots. A faint knock on the office door. The nurse glanced back, eyes wide. State oversight, the sheriff said, tone clipped. She didn't move. Baby against her chest, rocking in soft circles, murmuring rhythms. Not yet, she said. The deputy swallowed. He stepped back further. The sheriff watched, jaw tight, silent. Authority hovered, tense, waiting. The baby calmed slightly, fists uncurling. Breath evened. The girl whispered again, almost a chant, almost a promise. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Time stretched, paper untouched. No one moved closer. No one left. The lights flickered briefly, casting long shadows. The deputy exhaled slowly. The sheriff's hands tightened into fists, then released. Outside, snow continued to fall, washing tracks, erasing traces. Inside, warmth and fear mingled in quiet tension. She pressed the baby closer, rocking, whispering. I'm here. Always. I'm here. And for a long moment, the papers on the desk seemed less important than the rhythm of life held against her chest, the fragile pulse of survival against the cold authority waiting. The matron appeared without warning, her boots creaking on the wooden floor, hands folded over a coat that smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. You're the Scouts girl, she said, voice dry but not unkind. She didn't flinch. The woman replied, rocking the infant slowly. Your grandmother bled here too, the matron said, eyes flicking to the crib, the infant's pale face pressed against her chest. The girl's jaw tightened. I'm not my grandmother, she whispered. You carry old blood, the matron said. Old blood doesn't forgive. It remembers. The sheriff hovered near the door, hands tucked into his coat. We're arranging adoption, he said. For the child, he added, eyes sharp. For everyone, she replied, voice shaking with exhaustion and rage. The deputy glanced away, unease in his posture. Why are you here? She asked the matron. Because someone needs to see, the woman said, stepping closer. See what? She asked. The matron didn't answer immediately. She knelt, leaning closer to the crib, whispering to the infant. They never let go. They never forget. That's why you're here. The sheriff's voice cut across the room, calm, clipped. We need her documented, weighed, fed. Legal process. Process isn't protection, the girl said, rocking the infant faster. Weigh her. Tag her. Feed her. Name her, he said, voice harder now. I name her when she's ready, she said, eyes flashing. She survives first. Papers later. The matron nodded once, a slow acknowledgement. Good. Blood remembers. But so does strength. The deputy exhaled, shifting weight from one boot to the other. She needs heat, he said softly. She has warmth, the girl said, pressing the child closer. Tiny fists flexed, eyes blinking slowly. The sheriff frowned, voice sharper. Law isn't warmth, she whispered, almost to herself. Law isn't life. Outside, snow pressed against the windows, wind scraping against the boards. Inside, the heat hummed faintly, insufficient, but the rhythm of the child's breathing offered more warmth than any stove. The matron's gaze wandered, lingering on the shadows that stretched across the walls, the corners dark, heavy. They didn't like women who walked alone, she said. The girl stiffened. They still don't, she whispered, rocking. But I'm still walking, she added. The sheriff's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, leaning toward her. We offer protection. Rules, he said. She shook her head. Rules don't save the living, she replied. The deputy exhaled slowly. You're fighting more than men, he said. You're fighting memory. The girl's eyes softened on the baby, pale and breathing steadily. Memory isn't mine to fight, she whispered. It belongs to the blood that came before me. And I will carry her past it. The matron nodded. Good, she said again. Carry it. Remember it. But don't let it break you. You are the blood that survives. The sheriff looked at the two of them, authority rigid in his posture, and then glanced away. The deputy exhaled, stepping toward the door. The infant stirred, tiny cries piercing the room. She hummed a lullaby under her breath, rocking gently. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here, she murmured. Not for them. For her. The matron placed a hand briefly on her shoulder, a weightless reassurance. She will need you, she said. All of you will. The sheriff exhaled through his nose, soft, almost imperceptible. He stepped back toward the corner, watching. The deputy lingered, unsure. The matron straightened. Old blood doesn't disappear. It speaks in silence. It watches. It waits. You've inherited both. The girl pressed the infant tighter, warmth spreading slowly through her frozen limbs. I'm here, she whispered, rocking, murmuring the rhythm she had begun hours ago. Tiny hands flexed against her chin. Snow pressed against the windows, still falling, relentless. The sheriff finally left, boots scraping the floor. The deputy followed shortly after. The matron lingered, gaze lingering on the child, then nodded. Strength stays with those who hold, she said. Alone, the girl pressed the infant against her chest, rocking, whispering the same words, over and over, letting the rhythm of life and survival settle into the room. I'm here. Always. I'm here. Outside, the night pressed in, but inside, warmth and blood and memory carried them both through, one small breath at a time. They returned to the fence under the pale morning light, snow crusted over their boots, frozen wind biting at exposed skin. The girl carried the infant against her chest, rocking gently, murmuring, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff followed, expression unreadable, coat flaring with the wind. The deputy lingered behind, eyes darting between the two of them and the snow-covered wire. You tied me, she said, voice steady but low. The sheriff didn't answer immediately. He crouched near the frozen posts, hands brushing against the rough wood. You wandered, he said finally, tone controlled. I was left, she replied. The wind carried her words away almost as soon as they left her lips. She stepped closer to the wire, gloved fingers brushing frozen knots, eyes scanning the ground for footprints, boot prints. The baby stirred, small fists curling. Shoo, she whispered. Not yet. The sheriff's eyes followed her movements, calculating. Evidence isn't yours, he said softly. It's history, she shot back, voice sharp. History doesn't care for authority, she added, rocking the infant. The deputy swallowed, stepping closer. We just want the facts, he said. She shook her head, eyes narrowing. Facts are lies when someone chooses which to tell. She knelt slowly, pressing her cheek against the snow near the fence, feeling the cuts, the knots, the memory of ropes pressing into wrists that had long healed, except for the scars that didn't show. They thought they could leave me, she whispered. They didn't know. Tiny whimpers from the infant stirred her again, hands clutching the small body. The sheriff's jaw tightened. You think defiance protects? He asked. It does when life is all you can give, she said. The deputy stepped back, boots crunching in the snow. He looked at the girl, the baby, the fence, and hesitated. She pointed to the ground. See the prints? Not mine. Not theirs. The sheriff knelt beside her, eyes scanning, hands brushing lightly over the snow. That's a badge imprint, she said. His expression didn't change. Evidence of what? He asked. Of intent, she replied. Of the ones who wanted her gone. The wind pressed harder against their coats, snow sliding off the posts, melting on gloved hands. The baby blinked slowly, small fists relaxing. She murmured, rocking, whispering. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The sheriff exhaled, eyes narrowing. You're persistent, he said, voice low. I'm necessary, she replied. Every step, every breath, was measured, deliberate. She traced the ropes with gloved fingers, knots frozen, cold as stone. They thought it would end here, she said. It didn't. It begins again with her. The deputy's shoulders slumped. She's a child, he said softly. And I'm her blood, she said, rocking the infant, voice quiet but absolute. The snow shifted around them, shadows stretching thin in the weak morning light. She looked up at the sheriff. You see now, she asked. See what, he said. The way memory and blood cling. The way power leaves marks no badge can erase. He exhaled slowly. We'll need documentation, he said finally. She shook her head. Paper can't hold her life. Only I can. Tiny fingers brushed her chin. She pressed the infant closer, rocking, whispering the rhythm that had become both mantra and shield. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The deputy stepped back further, boots sliding softly on snow. The sheriff straightened, coat flaring, glancing at the frozen knots, the badge imprint, the shadows pressed against the fence. We wait, he said, voice low. We wait and see. She nodded once, rocking the infant faster, warmth against cold. Snow fell thicker now, drifting into prints, covering tracks. The fence loomed behind her, rough, frozen, silent witness. She pressed a finger against the baby's lips. Shoo, she whispered. Not to them. Not yet. The wind shifted again, biting. She stood slowly, infant in arms, rocking gently, whispering the chant that had carried them through night and morning. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The sheriff and deputy stepped back further, both silent, watching. And for a moment, the fence was more than wood and wire. It was memory. Witness. Warning. And she held the child closer, letting the rhythm of survival beat against her chest, steady, unbroken, unstoppable. She settled near the fire, small embers catching the edges of her coat, baby pressed tight against her chest. The warmth crept slowly, ice melting from her hair and gloves, but she did not relax. Shoo, she whispered, rocking the infant, murmuring the rhythm that had kept them alive. The sheriff's eyes followed her, hands tucked into pockets, expression tight. You feed her now, he said. I feed her, she replied. Tiny fists flexed against her chin. She needs milk, he said. She needs me, she countered, voice low, absolute. The deputy lingered in the corner, unsure, watching the two of them. You can't do it alone, he said. She glanced at him, expression sharp. I have before, she said. I'll do it again. The infant squirmed, whining, tiny mouth searching for warmth. She shifted, pressing the baby closer. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The sheriff sighed, exhaling through his nose. You're defiant, he said, voice soft but measured. I'm necessary, she replied. The words hung in the room like smoke. She rocked the infant gently, whispering, murmuring the same rhythm she had begun hours ago. Snow from her hair fell into the firelight, tiny drops sizzling. The deputy stepped closer cautiously. She's too young, he said softly. And too alive, she said, eyes sharp. I've seen what happens when they forget. He swallowed, uncertain. The sheriff's jaw tightened, coat flaring slightly with a gust of wind from the open door. We offer protection, he said. You offer life, she said. Tiny fists flexed, curling against her chin again. She hummed a lullaby she barely remembered knowing. The fire crackled, shadows stretching across the room, licking at the walls, the furniture, the ceiling beams. She pressed the infant tighter. Shoo. Not to them, she whispered. The sheriff's expression flickered. You know what's coming, he said. I know what I carry, she replied. The deputy exhaled, stepping back. The infant's breathing evened. Tiny eyes blinked, watching her, trusting. I'm here, she whispered again, voice soft but firm, rocking gently. She could feel the rhythm of life syncing with her own heartbeat, steady, persistent. The sheriff finally leaned back, voice quieter. "Rules matter," he said. "Not here," she whispered. Tiny fists pressed against her shoulder, flexing, releasing. "Not yet," she added. Outside, snow pressed against the windows, wind scraping the boards. Inside, warmth spread from fire, from life, from rhythm. The deputy glanced at her, then down at the infant. He did not move closer. The sheriff exhaled slowly, gaze fixed on her and the child, silent acknowledgement of defiance he could not break. She murmured again, over and over, rocking the infant, humming the rhythm, whispering, "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." Tiny fists flexed once more. The firelight caught her hair, melting snow sliding into wet streaks across her cheeks. "They can't take this from us," she whispered. "Not warmth. Not life. Not her." The deputy exhaled, stepping back fully. The sheriff glanced at the door, then at the floor, finally turning away. Silence stretched across the room, heavy, waiting, and she held the infant tighter, rocking, whispering, breathing in unison with the small body pressed to her chest. The fire crackled, a low hum filling the room. Shadows and warmth mingled. The rhythm of survival pulsed in her arms, steady, unbroken. "I'm here," she whispered again. Tiny hands pressed against her chin, pressing life against life. She rocked gently, murmuring the lullaby, repeating the rhythm, holding them both against the night, against cold, against authority. "I'm here. Always. I'm here." The night pressed against the walls outside, relentless, but inside, warmth and breath, milk and ash, carried them through. She would not let go. Not tonight. Not ever. The letter came without warning, edges crisp, the paper yellowed with age. She found it folded in the corner of the sheriff's office, tucked beneath other forms, barely noticed. She didn't touch it at first, letting her fingers hover above the paper. "What is it?" the deputy asked, voice low. "Old rules," she said, voice tight. "Old threats." The sheriff's eyes narrowed, glancing at her, expression calm, unreadable. "That's confidential," he said. She didn't answer, unfolding the letter, scanning lines written in careful, deliberate script. Names, dates, orders, everything they had pretended not to see. The baby squirmed, small fists pressing against her chest. She murmured softly, rocking. "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." The deputy leaned in, curious, cautious. "What does it say?" "It says what they intended," she whispered. "What they always intended. Who they wanted gone." The sheriff's jaw tightened. "That letter doesn't matter," he said. "It does," she replied. "It proves they always planned it." Tiny fingers brushed her cheek as she pressed the baby closer, rocking, whispering. She read lines aloud quietly, almost under her breath. "Remove problem women. Control lineage. Preserve order." She paused, looking at the sheriff. "You knew," she said. His expression didn't change. "We preserved order," he said, voice low. "Order isn't life," she said. "Order is rope, and badges, and teeth gnawing at survival." The deputy exhaled slowly, looking down at the infant, small body pressed against the girl's chest. "We follow procedure," the sheriff added. "Procedure is paper." "Life is here," she said, pressing the baby tighter. She lit a small fire nearby, the letter trembling in her hands. Flames licked the edges, smoke curling, carrying ink and paper into air. "Destroy it," the sheriff said softly. "So they didn't leave it," she said, tossing the letter into the fire. Embers caught, burning halfway, proof and threat mingling in smoke. The deputy stepped back, uncertain. "Are you burning evidence?" he asked. "I'm burning intent," she replied. "They wrote it, but it doesn't own her. Not now. Not ever." The fire crackled, shadows dancing across the room. The sheriff exhaled through his nose, soft, controlled. "You can't rewrite history," he said. "No," she whispered. "But I can protect the present." The infant shifted, tiny fists curling, eyelids blinking slowly. She hummed a rhythm, the same rhythm she had used since the night they found her, since the ropes, since the fence. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Tiny fingers brushed against her cheek. Snow from her coat melted onto her sleeves. The deputy looked at the flames, hesitant, unsure. You're defiant, he said. Necessary, she replied. She deserves life first. Paper second. The sheriff studied her, eyes sharp. You'll pay for this, he said. I'm paying attention, she said, rocking, whispering, keeping the infant against her chest. Tiny fists pressed lightly against her neck. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The fire consumed the letters slowly, smoke rising, edges curling, words disappearing but intent lingering in the room, heavy, almost tangible. The sheriff exhaled, turning toward the door. The deputy lingered, watching. You won't leave with her, the sheriff said, voice low, almost warning. I'm leaving, she said, voice absolute. Tiny fists flexed, small body trusting, breathing in rhythm with her own. The firelight flickered across their faces, shadows stretching, mixing with smoke, evidence, and memory. She hummed the rhythm again, whispering, pressing the infant close. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Outside, snow pressed against the windows, relentless. Inside, warmth from the fire mingled with breath, life, and determination. The baby's eyelids fluttered, then relaxed. She rocked slowly, whispering the rhythm that had carried them through night and morning, through ropes, fences, and threats. The sheriff paused in the doorway, silent, watching the girl and child, authority rigid, powerless to touch what already existed. She pressed the baby closer. I'm here, she whispered. Always. I'm here. The fire crackled again, embers floating into smoke, carrying intent and survival away into the night. She approached the well at the edge of the yard, snow crunching under boots, baby pressed tight to her chest. The wind pushed against her coat, biting, cold, relentless. She knelt slowly, fingers brushing frozen stones, the mouth of the well dark and empty. Water or memory, she whispered. Depends on what you're looking for. The deputy lingered behind, boots scraping ice. Careful, he said softly. I know, she said. Tiny fists flexed against her chin, eyes blinking slowly. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff remained at the edge of the yard, coat flaring, hands tucked into pockets. That well has been here too long, he said. So has the fear, she replied. Snow slid down the stones in thin sheets, freezing in place, reflecting morning light. She pressed the infant closer. Water or memory, she murmured again, rocking gently. The deputy shifted, uncertain. It's deep, he said. So am I, she whispered. She lowered a small bucket near the edge, letting it brush the dark water inside. The baby stirred, tiny mouth opening, small whimpers escaping. She pressed the child tighter. Not now, she whispered. Not to them. The sheriff stepped closer. You can't keep her forever, he said. I don't intend to, she replied, voice low, steady. I intend to survive. Tiny fists flexed lightly. She hummed the rhythm again, pressing the baby to her chest. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The water reflected her face, pale from cold, streaked with melting snow and tears she hadn't realized had fallen. She traced the rim of the well with fingers, feeling rough stones, smooth ice, history pressed into each one. This well has seen everything, she whispered. And it forgot nothing. The deputy exhaled, stepping closer, hesitating. History isn't alive, he said softly. Neither is memory, she replied. Until someone carries it. The sheriff's jaw tightened. And you carry it. She nodded, rocking gently. Tiny fists pressed against her neck. She dipped the baby slightly toward the bucket, careful, rhythm steady, whispering her mantra. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Snow drifted around them, soft, relentless. She lowered the bucket again, letting it skim the dark surface. Shadows stretched across the yard, twisted by light and wind. "Water will wash," the sheriff said. "Memory doesn't," she replied. "Then you're chained to it," he said. She shook her head. "I'm held by choice," she said. Tiny fingers brushed her cheek, searching, trusting. She hummed the lullaby again, rocking gently. The deputy exhaled slowly, shifting weight from one boot to another. "You're alone in this," he said softly. "Alone isn't the same as powerless," she replied. "She's alive. I hold her. That's enough." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Rules are rules," he said. "Rules are cold," she whispered. "Life is warmth." She pressed the baby tighter, rocking, murmuring, letting the rhythm of life beat against her chest. "I'm here. Always. I'm here." She leaned closer to the well, looking into its dark depths. Tiny icicles hung along the rim, catching the pale light, dripping slowly. The baby blinked, fists curling and uncurling. "Water or memory," she whispered again. "We choose what survives." The deputy stepped back. The sheriff exhaled, coat flaring in the wind, silent acknowledgement that the child and her mother were already beyond the reach of paper, rope, and badges. She hummed once more, rocking the infant, whispering the rhythm over and over. Tiny fists pressed lightly, eyes blinking slowly. Snow drifted thicker, covering footprints. The well remained dark, silent, witness to everything. She pressed the child to her chest, murmuring again. "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." Outside, wind and snow carried the sound away. Inside her arms, warmth and life persisted, unbroken, unstoppable, steady against everything that sought to take them. The fire had died down to embers, red and glowing faintly in the cold room. She pressed the baby closer, rocking gently, murmuring, "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." Outside, snow fell harder, thickening against windows, covering tracks and footprints. The sheriff stood near the doorway, coat flaring, hands tucked into pockets. "It's too cold to linger here," he said. "I'm not leaving," she replied, voice tight, low. Tiny fists flexed against her chin. "She's alive. That's all that matters." The deputy shifted, boots scraping the floor softly. "You can't keep her forever," he said. "Forever isn't what I'm aiming for," she said, pressing the infant tighter. Snow melted from her hair into her coat, wet streaks running down her sleeves. "Warmth first," he said softly. "Life first," she replied. The sheriff exhaled, jaw tight, watching, silent, powerless to touch what already existed. She knelt near the dying embers, pulling small scraps of paper from a drawer, tossing them into the fire. Letters, orders, lists, remnants of threats long written, now consumed by smoke and heat. "Destroy it," the sheriff said, voice low. "So it doesn't destroy her," she whispered. Tiny fingers brushed her cheek. She rocked the infant, humming the rhythm she had repeated through nights and fences and wells. "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." The deputy stepped closer, hesitant. "You're defiant," he said. "Necessary," she replied. "She survives first. Paper second." Flames licked the edges of the scraps, smoke curling into the cold air, carrying intent away. The sheriff exhaled slowly, coat flaring. "You'll pay for this," he said, voice low, warning, but the words landed in a room already filled with life, warmth, and determination. She shifted the infant, tiny fists pressing lightly against her chin, rocking faster, murmuring, "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." The snow pressed against the windows, relentless. Outside, footprints were buried. Inside, warmth persisted, embers glowing, small hands searching, clinging, trusting. She pressed the baby tighter, murmuring again. "Not to them. Not yet." The sheriff stepped closer, boots scraping against the floor. "They'll come," he said softly. "They always do," she replied. Tiny fists flexed, small eyes blinking. She hummed, rhythm steady, life pressing against life. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here. I'm here. The deputy glanced at the embers, the smoke, the shadows curling against walls. You're holding more than just her, he said. I'm holding everything they tried to take, she replied, rocking gently. Snow slid down the windows, streaks of wet light across the floor. She pressed the infant closer, murmuring the rhythm, letting warmth from her body, from the fire, from life flow into the child. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Tiny fists flexed, curling and uncurling. The sheriff exhaled softly, stepping back, coat flaring. The deputy lingered, watching, uncertain. Neither moved closer. Neither left. Silence stretched heavy across the room, filled only with breath, heartbeat, and ember-crackled warmth. She leaned closer to the embers, murmuring once more. Ashes in the snow, ashes in the night. Nothing taken can touch what survives. Tiny fingers brushed her neck. She pressed the infant tighter, rocking, humming. I'm here. Always. I'm here. The smoke rose slowly, carrying paper and threats away, leaving only warmth and breath and rhythm. Outside, snow pressed against windows, relentless. Inside, she hummed, whispered, murmured. The baby relaxed slightly, fists unclenching. Breath evened. Life persisted against the cold and authority and history that sought to erase it. She rocked slowly, rhythm steady, murmuring again. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff and deputy watched from corners, silent acknowledgement passing between them. She held the infant tighter, warmth against cold, blood against snow, survival against everything that had tried to take it. She whispered once more, almost a chant, almost a promise. I'm here. Always. I'm here. Snow fell heavier, covering footprints. Embers glowed faintly, life beating against the night. Outside, relentless winter pressed in. Inside, warmth, breath, and a rhythm of survival carried them through, unbroken, unstoppable. She would not let go. Not tonight. Not ever. The snow had stopped, leaving a pale gray sky, frozen light reflecting off the yard. She stepped outside, infant pressed tight against her chest, boots crunching in thin ice. The fence loomed behind her, frozen knots and wires stark against the white. She didn't look back. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here, she whispered. The sheriff lingered at the doorway, coat flaring, hands in pockets. You can't walk away from this, he said softly. I'm not walking away, she said. I'm moving forward. Tiny fists pressed lightly against her chin. The deputy lingered near the edge of the yard, uncertain. It's still cold, he said. So am I, she replied, voice low, absolute. She pressed the infant closer, rocking gently, murmuring the rhythm that had carried them through snow, fence, fire, and well. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff exhaled softly, coat flaring. You're defiant, he said. Necessary, she replied. The wind pressed against their coats, snow drifting in slow, weightless sheets across the yard. She knelt briefly near the frozen fence, hands brushing the knots, feeling rough wood and cold wire. I was tied here once, she whispered. I am not tied anymore. Tiny fists flexed against her chest. The deputy glanced at her, uncertainty in his eyes. You'll be hunted, he said softly. Then we keep moving, she said. She survives. That's all that matters. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Rules, he said. Life first, she replied, voice steady. Snow slid down her hair, melting into wet streaks, but she did not blink. The baby stirred, tiny cries cutting the cold. She pressed the child tighter. Shoo, she whispered. Not to them. Not yet. The sheriff exhaled slowly, stepping back. The deputy shifted, boots scraping. You carry more than her, he said. I carry what they tried to take, she replied. Tiny fists curled and uncurling, eyes blinking, trusting completely. She hummed the rhythm again, rocking gently. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. She looked at the fence one last time, knots frozen, wire taut. Snow drifted over footprints, erasing evidence. It watched me. It couldn't hold me, she whispered. The sheriff nodded slightly, silent acknowledgement of defiance he could not undo. The deputy exhaled, stepping further back. Neither moved closer. Neither left. The yard held them in frozen tension, wind pressing, snow covering, but she moved forward, baby against her chest, life beating steady. The rhythm continued, low, persistent, a lullaby and mantra entwined. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here, she murmured. Tiny fists pressed against her chin, flexing gently. The snow covered every trace of the past, but she carried it inside, memory, blood, and survival entwined. Not tied. Not broken. Always moving, she whispered. The sheriff's eyes flicked toward her, coat flaring with wind, then glanced away. The deputy exhaled slowly. Survival, warmth, and life persisted against the cold, against authority, against history. She pressed the infant closer, walking forward, boots crunching thin ice and snow. Every step deliberate, measured, a rhythm matching the heartbeat she had carried in darkness, in frost, in shadow. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here, she murmured again. Tiny fists brushed her cheek. Outside, snow drifted thicker, covering footprints, erasing the past. Inside her chest, warmth and breath and rhythm continued, steady, unbroken, unstoppable. The sheriff finally exhaled softly, voice low, almost resigned. You're tied no longer, he said. So we move, she replied. Tiny fists flexed against her chin, eyes blinking slowly. The deputy looked on, uncertain, powerless to stop what had already begun. Life and survival persisted, rhythm steady, unyielding. She hummed the lullaby again, rocking gently, pressing the infant close. I'm here. Always. I'm here. She stepped into the gray morning fully, snow pressing against her coat, wind biting, boots crunching. Behind her, the fence remained frozen, silent witness. In her arms, life continued, fragile but unbroken, rhythm pressing against history. She whispered once more, almost a chant, almost a promise. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. The sheriff and deputy watched from a distance, silent acknowledgement passing between them. She moved forward, baby pressed to her chest, warmth against cold, life against everything that had tried to erase it.